Hi, it's Emily from Emily Rose Apiaries. I've decided to do a mini series about honey truths because there is a lot of misinformation out there about honey. So I've decided to do a little series to give you guys some information to arm yourselves with regards to honey. This first one I'm going to talk about raw honey, unpasteurized honey, and pasteurized honey. This is definitely the category that I get the most questions about and hear the most misinformation about. So I'm going to start with raw honey. Raw honey has never been heated, not even a little bit. So it's hard on the shelf. Depending on the flowers that it came from, it can be quite crunchy. But the main point is that raw honey has never been heated. Unpasteurized honey, it can be heated, but to a relatively low temperature for a relatively short period of time as compared to pasteurized honey. So all of my honey is unpasteurized honey. It has all of the same health benefits that raw honey does. It has all of the beneficial enzymes, the antioxidants, and I'll get more into the health benefits about honey in another segment. So just to show you, I have a couple of jars here. This one on the left, it's a dark honey because it's buckwheat honey. These little bits, they look like little bits on the side, those are crystals starting to form. So this is unpasteurized honey that's starting to crystallize and starting to go hard. So eventually this will be rock solid, just like raw honey is. If your honey starts to crystallize at home, by the way, just boil a pot of water, set it off the heat, and then stick your jar of honey right in that hot water, and by morning it'll be back to liquid. So the principle is the same when I go to liquefy my honey. It's a little bit of a different technique where I have an insulated box with some light bulbs on a dimmer switch where I can very accurately and finely control the temperature that the honey is heated to. I heat it to the point just that it's re-liquefied. That way I'm not destroying any of those benefits that natural honey has, but a lot of people prefer liquid honey. It's easy to scoop, it's easy to spread, it's very versatile, can be used in just about any way that honey is used. So a lot of people like the liquid form of honey. But that brings us into pasteurized honey. Pasteurized honey is honey that has been heated to at least 120 degrees Fahrenheit for 8 hours. So it's quite hot and for quite a while. You can heat it even hotter than that for a shorter period of time in order to pasteurize it as well. People that might want pasteurized honey would be, for instance, a bakery where they buy a pail or two of honey at a time, because pasteurized honey doesn't crystallize very readily. It might go a year or two before it starts to crystallize. So for people that use small amounts over long periods of time and aren't concerned about whether or not you're losing the health benefits that you get with natural unpasteurized honey, pasteurized could be a good option for those particular uses. The real problem with pasteurized honey comes from these dishonest honey packers. These guys, the point for them is they pasteurize honey to the point that it's so hot that it runs almost as thin as water, so that they can pass it through these ultra fine microfilters, and these filters are so fine that they even pull out the microscopic amounts of pollen that are naturally found in honey. The reason for doing that is that once you pull that pollen out, you can't tell what plants the honey came from, and therefore you can't tell the country of origin of where that honey came from. And that's a big deal, especially for countries like Canada, where we have laws that prevent the import of honey from specific countries. So what these dishonest honey packers do is they pull all the pollen out, remove all traceability of the product, then they send it to an intermediate country who then relabels it and sells it legally to Canada. Another reason why they pasteurize honey and microfilter it like that is so that they can dilute it with corn syrup. And corn syrup, although it has a very similar color and sweetness to honey, definitely doesn't taste as good, and it's definitely not as good for you as a natural honey product. So I would say, as far as what you're using honey for, it's a good idea to buy honey that's pure, honest, natural honey. The only way to really do that is to buy it from a local beekeeper, somebody who is honest and sells unpasteurized pure honey. Thanks for watching.